What's up everybody, this is Feder from 3D Print SOS. Today we're going to be looking at more Winsinn fans. This time a 4-pack of 60 by 10 silent fans for our PSU. You might be able to hear the printer behind me right now, but it is made significantly quieter with some Winsinn 40mm RGB fans, one in the hot end, one in the motherboard down here. And let's see if I can go ahead and get this PSU fan to power up so you can hear the dramatic difference. So it's not going to do it right the second it's heating up, but I'll have it running back there so you guys can hear it live with me when it kicks in. But basically, now that these two fans are significantly quieter, what's happening is once the PSU fan needs to turn on to cool down the PSU, it is extremely loud, or I guess more noticeable, because the other two fans were already so loud together it wasn't so bad, but now it's actually quite noticeable. So the reason why I had 2 boxes of these fans earlier is because Winsinn actually has 2 types of fans in this configuration. One set is a brushless fan, and one set is a dual ball bearing fan. And the dual ball bearing is what you're going to want for this application, simply because the dual ball bearing model is rated for 24 hours plus of operation time. Here we go. I don't know if you can hear it. The mic's right here below my chin. That's a loud fan, right? Anyway, that's what we're going to try to fix, and it should sound like this. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Hopefully a completely silent printer. All right, so like I was mentioning before, the dual ball bearing model is rated for 24 plus hour operation, whereas the brushless model is only rated at 16 plus. Now, 16 hours or so is plenty of time if you really wanted to buy these. Maybe the other ones weren't available in your area or something along those lines. I'm sure that would be fine for a while, but I personally do longer prints than that, so I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Winsinn dual ball bearing models. I have a feeling because it's dual ball bearing, they will be ever so gently louder than the brushless, but I'm not going to risk it simply because I definitely have had more than 24-hour prints. So if you look at the blade design here, you can see it's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing in the other fans, and I do have a feeling this is going to move less air than a traditional fan, but that is okay, and let me tell you why. In these printers on the bottom of the PSU, they're completely enclosed in a metal casing, which is kind of strange considering that the power supply needs air to breathe. There's a fan in there pushing air and it's not going anywhere. There's a tiny opening that's covered by more wiring. That's really the only way that that PSU can breathe. And so even though the fan might not be pushing more air than the other fan, by removing that baffle, which is, you know, an option that you can do, it will dramatically improve the just air amount of air being moved down there. So I have a feeling that this fan is going to be perfect and fantastic. You know, the PSUs in these are temperature regulated by the fan, which means once they reach a certain temperature, the fan turns on, as you saw previously. It'll turn off if the PSU doesn't need it anymore. So we'll easily be able to tell if it's getting enough air with these fans just by doing 1 or 2 prints. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shut down the printer, cool down. I'm going to put it all the way up there on top of the rack so we can see everything we're doing. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to take everything off, and we're going to replace this fan. This should be, because this is a 12-volt fan, there should be a direct replacement all the way down to the plug. We don't need any solder. All we need is just the tools that come with the printer, just some Allen keys and a Phillips screwdriver. So let's go ahead and get that done. I'll see you guys up there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, by the way, the reason why I actually have both of these was because I accidentally ordered the wrong part. These were not provided by Winsinn. I'm not paid by them in any way. This is just products I'm trying for myself, and if they're good enough, recommending them to you. All right, so I got my fan, I got some tools, I got everything down on a towel so that I don't scratch the table by accident. So we got ourselves a little magnetic bowl for all the hardware. I got the Phillips screwdriver that came with the printer and the Allen keys that came with the printer, as well as the fan itself. So we're going to start by going to flip this printer backwards because there's some screws on the back here that we have to get to, some bolts. All right, let's go ahead and push the bed out of the way. And I might get in the way of the shot here occasionally here and there, but just bear with me. So there's 2 bolts on this side and 2 bolts on the other side. It should be easy to get to. And they're actually holding the power supply onto the top of this metal shroud that's on it. So what I like to do is, in my little container here, I like to put all the hardware kind of like bundled together. And since it's magnetic, they should stay there. That way, I kind of remember where I got them. All right, so I got the 4 off from here. Now go ahead and carefully rotate it to the side. And let's go ahead and put it on its side. There we go. Let's make sure that you guys can see. Here we go. All right, so this is the power supply right here, and this is the fan that we're replacing. Let's get some cutters here. Cut off the zip tie. Won't be needing this anymore. So if you can kind of see what's going on here, is this power supply is basically encapsulated in this metal shroud. And what's interesting to me is typically right here on a power supply there's exhaust holes because this fan is blowing in to the power supply. And because it's enclosed like this, there's actually no way of air to escape except for right here, right where these wires are. That's the only spot. So it's kind of an interesting design choice that they went with. And as we take this out here, and there's a little bit of wiggle room here. Let's see. Here we go. So the whole power supply came off with the shroud. And before I pull it, everything's still connected here. Also, let me just mention, before you start, make sure that your power is completely unplugged and go ahead and turn the power on to drain everything, all the power out of here so you don't accidentally get shocked. If you got this far with me, you can still do it here because we're not touching any leads or anything like that. And technically, as soon as this thing's unplugged, you should be pretty good. But once you have this thing down, the black shroud is held on by 2 more Allen bolts right here on the side. And mine are actually really loose. So let's go ahead and take those out. 1 and 2. Hey, on the bright side, easy to take out. So here you go. Now we're left with just the bare power supply. Everything's still connected. And this shroud. So as you can see, when we take this off, let me just set this to the side right over here. What you can see is there's actually plenty of exhaust air that can come out with the shroud off. And the only real reason to have it on is to protect yourself from having, your positive and negative leads open like this. Now, in my case, this is sitting inside of, not an enclosure, but a rack. So I'm actually gonna, when I put this back together, I'm gonna keep that shroud off. I can't recommend it, I guess, if you're the type of person that's gonna be reaching under here a lot while it's plugged in and running. I would say if you're that type of person, keep it on there, keep it stuck. But for me, I want a little bit more airflow. Plus, it'll keep it a little bit more quiet because there's just more air moving. There's no whistling or anything along those lines. So I'm gonna keep mine off, and you can fully assemble this back together without that piece that we just removed. So that's me, but safety first. So definitely be sure that you're well aware that you're going to have live leads open. Now there's barely even room to get your fingers under here, so it'd be pretty hard to get something under there, but in case like a metal tool rolls under or something along those lines, just keep that in mind, okay? So do that at your own risk. All right, so to take this apart, to take this cover off at least, you're gonna need a Phillips screwdriver. And on the side here, there's 2 or 4, excuse me, 2 on each side, little tiny Phillips screws. They're kind of like self-tappers. All these power supplies are generally the same on most of these printers, but some are just in different places, kind of like my old Ender 3 that's sitting below this one. You know, the power supply is like exposed and on the side, whereas here it's nicely tucked away, kind of like the Ender 3 V2. There we go, we're on the third bolt, or screw, and one more, and we should be free. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is the inside of your unit, and here is our super loud fan. It looks like there's some hair or plastic in there, as always. I'm gonna go ahead and unclip this plug. All right, so it looks like little clips go upward. And let's just set this thing down, making sure we're not pulling on any wiring anywhere. There we go. And you know what? Let me move these Allen keys out of the way. There we go. All right, so let's take a look here at the fan. So it's attached by two more self tappers, and these tap right into the fan. So they're kind of large, as you see there. Let's take this fan completely off this. Very easy. There we go. All right, so here's the fan, 12 volt, 0.13, and this is a brushless. And look at that, this one is thinner, 60. And here's the big difference in blade design. So this fan is definitely going to be pushing more air, for sure. So this fan is going to be a much faster spinning fan, but because it's moving less air, it's probably going to make less noise. And you know what? Just by spinning the blades like this, I can feel that there's almost a vibration here, and I can feel the pulls, whereas this is very smooth in comparison. So that's kind of interesting. All right, now let's compare the plugs. All right, so good thing I pulled them both out to compare, because it looks like the wires need to be reversed. So let me get this nice and focused for you. All right, so it looks like this black negative wire needs to be swapped with a positive wire to match the original fan. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how. All right, so on the back of this plug, there's these two little metal tabs. And what you want to do is we're gonna kind of separate these wires a bit so we have something to pull. Here, let's start with the black one. So I'm gonna grab it with my thumbs, and I'm just gonna pull it downward. And here I have a set of tweezers, or you can do this with a knife. But basically, you put it inside of here, and you kind of press on the little tab. There you go. And while you're pulling on the wire, it should come off. There we go. And it'll slide right out like that. Okay, and now let's do it with the red. I'm gonna push down, light pressure. You don't want to do this with too much pressure, because you will pull the wire out. There we go. Hopefully I got that on camera, and it should come right out. So what we need to do, let's look at this one again. So with this plug facing at us with the clips, we need the black wire on the left. So looking this way, it should pop right in here on the left. We should hear a click. There we go, that's in. Red on the right side, click. Here we go. Let's compare one more time. They should be matching now. Black, black, red, red. Okay. So just like the other fans, it looks like the Winsinn fan does have a longer wire, but I'm pretty sure we can tuck it in there somewhere. So let's go ahead and install it now. So make sure that the back side of this fan is facing you when you go and do the install. That way it's blowing in the right direction. So we'll go ahead and line it up. Put the self-tapper in. And as you screw this down, it should tap. itself into the plastic holding the fan. There's some rubber mounts you can buy for these. That might help with some vibration, but I don't think that's necessary here. So there we go, our fan is secured. Let me go ahead and zoom you back in. All right, so we go ahead and lift this, set that fan down, get the plug. With the clips facing up, this should click right in. There we go. That's in there. Now let's go ahead and have that wired down at the bottom. Put this cover inside. Let's go ahead and grab the little self-tappers that are on the side here. Here we go. Let's put one on. They kind of go in a little rough actually, but once they start going in, they're fine. Just like that. You saw it took just a little bit of extra pressure, more than I would originally have thought, but that's just how these are. They're going into metal. They're not necessarily precise. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera here. There we go. And they will align the cover by themselves because they are tapered. So as they tighten, they will kind of straighten themselves out. Looks like I have just enough slack to kind of set this thing down, which is nice. There we go. You loosen it a bit and then tighten again. Yep, that's great. Okay. Don't want to get this thing tied up too much. One more. Right over here. There we go. Nice and easy. And it straightens the cover out by itself. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this one, screw it back in because it kind of looks like it went in on an angle for me. There we go. That's nice and tight. All right, so we have our new fan ready to go. Let's make sure that all of this is nice and snug. All right, so once again, let me show you the shroud that's on here. Essentially, this thing goes over top and it attaches to this first, and then it kind of slides in here, encapsulating this power supply entirely. So essentially this fan is getting air, but then the only place it can come out is right here where these wires are. So with it off, you have all of this space, all of this room for the air to come out. The only downside is this area is exposed. So you just got to keep that in mind. There, you know, we could easily design a little printable piece that goes over this with some holes, with some still some ventilation, but it'll keep you from touching. And that's probably the best bet here. But for now, for this install, I'm going to leave that out, and we're just going to go ahead and before I put this thing down, I'm going to grab one of the four that went over the top, and I'm going to reach over here and see if I can thread one in by hand just to kind of align this thing. Yep, nice and easy. That one is in. Let me do one more. Just so it's not sliding around when I go ahead and flip this thing over. It'll just make it a little bit easier for us to get it back where it's supposed to be. All right, so I got two in there. There you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this thing down this way, like so. I'm kind of holding the power supply still so I can put these in. Let's get that Allen key. Let's start to thread that one in there. All right, yeah, get yourself plenty of light, plenty of room to work with. This one over here is kind of being a little bit of a pain. I might have to snug up the others. Oh, there you go, just caught it. All right, that threaded in. Nice, nice and smooth. One more. So you're gonna have some hardware left over if you're choosing at your own risk to keep that shroud off, like myself. So go ahead and put them in a safe place in case you want to turn it back to stock, or you know, technically speaking, you can modify that cover. You can very easily use a Dremel, or even just drill some holes in those areas, and you know, put the casing back on. That's definitely one thing you can do. So there you go, nice and snug. Let's take a look underneath one more time, just to make sure everything is okay. There we go. Here, let me turn it to you guys. All right, so another thing we're losing by not having that cover underneath is there was a little wire management, I guess, clip that had a zip tie on it. Once again, this printer is going to be just sitting inside. I'm really not worried about that. There's also a screw here, and you know what? I'm going to put that back in just so that I don't lose this. And this is another area that we can use to bolt on a plastic cover that we can print. Well, design first, as far as I understand it. I haven't seen one of these yet, but if it's out there, shoot me a link. But yeah, as you can see, we could very easily make a tiny little cover with ventilation holes that can mount here, here, and here. That will prevent if you have any kind of worry about something getting in there. Okay, and there you have it. You know, I have more fans now because they give you 4 in a box, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and plug everything in, make sure the fan is spinning. We're very likely going to have to power this thing on and then set it to heat to ABS to get it nice and hot. Let me go ahead and grab the power supply. I'll be right back. All right, let's do it. Here's the power supply. And now that it's plugged in, be very wary that that is going to be live. You're gonna have 24 volts running through there. Let's go ahead and turn the printer on. You saw that flash from the LED. Let's see if I can reach over and see anything on the screen. I can. I'm probably blocking your view, so please be patient with me. All right, let's go to control and preheat ABS. Yes, your printer is going to get hot. Yes, you're gonna have to cool it down. So let's see. First, we should see the motherboard fan turn on to begin the heating process. It's not gonna start right away. Both of these fans are on temperature sensors, and they only turn on if they need to. Let me just go ahead and make sure that I did it. Yep, preheating 240 on the hot end and 110 on the bed. It is cool in my basement at the moment. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up, and I will slow it down when I see one of the fans move. All right, so it's actually been a few minutes of it heating up, and finally this fan turned on. I gotta be honest, it is slightly louder than I expected it to be. I guess I'm used to fans like Noctuas and things like that being almost completely silent. So yeah, it's definitely quieter than the stock fan, but honestly not by much. Another prediction that I might have gotten wrong was the amount of air that it's gonna move. It is actually moving a ton of air. I mean, I can, you know, it is sucking my hand in there, and I can definitely feel air flowing everywhere. The motherboard fan has not turned on since. I'm not exactly sure why. I might have to actually like start a print and have it moving the drivers for this to need to turn on. So at the moment, that's off. However, I've seen that fan run on many occasions now, and it doesn't make that much noise. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run a cool down on this with everything plugged in, then I'm gonna unplug it, I'm gonna put it back down where it goes, and I'm gonna show you guys an actual before and after audio test sample so that you guys can hear what it was like before and what it's like after installing one of these Winsinn dual ball bearing fans. All right, let's do it. Hey, Future Fedder here. I do want to test one more thing before you guys hear the before and afters. I have these soft mounts. These brown ones are from Noctua fans. They come with every Noctua fan, or I guess almost every Noctua fan. They push the fans away from the metal or whatever they're mounted to, and basically give it a little bit more damping in case they're vibrating against whatever they're installed on. This set is from, I think they're called NBXB silent fans or something along those lines, but I do have those on my Ender. So it doesn't matter which one of these that you guys get or use, but I just wanted to show you them, to give you guys some more options. So let's go into the before and afters. All right, everybody, here is the conclusion. As you can see, I have a print running on the printer. I usually don't do that for these videos because they're typically pretty loud and I don't want them interfering with what I'm saying. But in this case, I can hear it. You might be able to hear it because there's still 3 fans running on the machine, but it's really not that bad. And since the steppers are silent, this is a win-win. I can definitely recommend these Winsinn fans. I love that they come in big packs of 4. We'll see the longevity of these fans. I'll definitely be posting if something happens. I'll definitely update in the pinned comment. So just keep an eye out for that. I think removing this, I still suggest it because there's just so much more air coming through, without this cover. I do think that's why it's noisier than I expected, because this would block out some of the noise because it encapsulates everything in there. And another thing to note is I did notice that it took forever for that fan to turn on in comparison to where I used to heat up the printer and it would turn on almost instantly. I do think that's because of the added airflow. So that's because it's temperature regulated. So that's nice. Yeah. Big win-win, definitely recommend. Check out the link in the description for these fans. It is an affiliate link, which means it doesn't cost you anything. But if you guys buy the fans through my link, I get a tiny kickback and it helps this channel grow. It allows me to continue to buy these type of products to test on my own stuff and share it with you guys. So if you guys like it, throw me a thumbs up. If you know somebody who will find this video useful, send them a link. And as always, guys, ask away at the comments and I'll see you down there. Till next time.